Good to go.
Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Open Space Committee. This open meeting of the Northborough Open Space Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Northborough Open Space Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Northborough Open Space Committee to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. I would be the chair. Members of the public who wish to view on live stream of the meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment, with the exception that we have visitors on our agenda. With that said, I'd like to confirm the board members present at this time, and we will add those and mention them as they come on. So let's see, board member Leslie Harrison, are you present? You must speak. You must unmute.
Sorry, here. No, yeah, I was muted. Sorry, here.
Brian Belfer, are you present?
Present.
Dan Clark, are you present?
I'm here, present.
Anthony Zeiton, are you present?
Present.
And I am present. That is 5 members, and that's a quorum. Very well. We're also joined by Allie Lane of Rec Commission. Hi, Allie.
Hi.
And by Sarah Adams of the Central Mass Regional Planning. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, everyone.
Great to see you. So the primary objective of our meeting is to, wait a minute, did I do everything right here? Well, we've done these a few times, so I think all we really need to know is if we do vote, I'll be calling you out by name. In the meantime, we'll launch right in. I think our primary agenda is getting back to our draft goals and objectives and making some headway. But for that, I guess I'd like to open it up for anyone's comments on the forum and how they related to our goals. I had notes I was making as we went, and I'll fill in with some of those. Maybe I'll open it up to Sarah if you had any particular things that hit your mind as people were talking. Would you like to add anything?
I think the two big takeaways were that there's definitely desire in town for a dog park and for pickleball courts. We had participants from interest groups that were interested in both of those types of facilities. We heard a lot about that. I think we have some folks from Northborough Unleashed that might be tuned in right now. So we definitely heard that feedback and should incorporate that into our discussion tonight about objectives and action items. Allie?
Sorry, Sarah. I just wanted to let you guys know, and I apologize that I came in late last meeting, but the Recreation Department and the Senior Center Director are going to be putting in a CPC application for this year to build 4, possibly 6 outdoor pickleball courts. So that is in the works. I've spoken with the pickleball people offline. They called me all the time. They want me to open the gym today. They're very enthusiastic. I am 100% support them. The Senior Center Director, Liz, she's new. She really wants to see one in town. So it's kind of been in our top priority, and it's obviously a priority of the master plan of this plan. So we're going to move forward. Right now we have an architect that's out there trying to find us the best location. We have 2 locations identified. One is at the Senior Center and one is at Ellsworth McAfee. So right now we're just trying to figure out which one is more cost efficient and the best place for them. They prefer the Ellsworth McAfee. I think it might be a better location only because we would have to tear down all the trees in the front to put it at the senior center. But that's going on. I didn't get a chance to explain that last week. I just wanted to let you guys know that we are moving forward with that through CPC grant.
Allie, have you written the app already, or are you in progress?
No, I'm in progress. We're waiting for the location. I will have it to you by the due date.
And you're
The
going to focus
architect,
it on?
the landscape architect that is doing the town common and that did Assabet Park for us is going to go out to both sites and do a quote for us to use for the CPC project.
And you'll focus on one of those two sites then in the application, or?
Absolutely. We'll have the specific site before we fill out the application. We want it all, we're going to have it all lined out, how much it's going to cost, what it's going to, how much land we're going to need and what's going to have to be done. We're working closely with Scott Charpentier on this.
While we're on the subject, what is the demographic that largely uses pickleball, if I could ask?
It's actually really hard to say. Last year, I would have said mostly seniors and retirees, but we have a surge going on in Northborough and the surrounding boroughs of people in their late 30s, early 40s, all the way through that are playing. So there are people who are looking to play after hours. So not just during the day, whereas the retirees could play. So that's one of the reasons we looked into transforming the middle school tennis courts into pickleball, but they wouldn't be able to use it while school was in session for the seniors. It wouldn't have served the purposes that we were looking for. So that's why we're looking for an alternate location. But it's actually for everyone. To be honest with you, they taught me how to play and I'm in love with it. For some reason, it's a sport that as soon as you learn how to play, you become completely obsessed with it. And I can see why it's sweeping the nation. It is so fun. And I would love to be able to it's being taught at Algonquin. It's being taught at the middle school and all of the PE classes in the surrounding towns. So it really is, when I say sweeping the nation, it is sweeping the nation of all ages.
Well, part of why I asked is I thought that the senior center land would be a natural, particularly with disc golf maybe now taking a back seat.
Correct.
You mentioned in front of the senior center. What about behind it or next to the parking lot?
Well, that's conservation land and we can't do anything in the parking lot area. So the only land that would be big enough to house that would be when you drive in, that first piece of land to the right, that's all trees. That's actually owned by the Park and Rec Commission. So we have the ability to clear it and put something recreational on it if we want, which we can't do up top because it's all conservation. The only problem with that is you would have to clear the land. You'd have to build an alternate parking lot because you can't expect them to park up top and walk back down to where the road is. So it would just be a lot more expensive. I do think it's a great location. But if we were able to put it at Ellsworth, we'd already have the parking, bathrooms, everything would already be set up there. So it would probably be half, if not more than half the cost, less than half the cost.
To me, that seems, especially because it is, as you said, sweeping the nation, it's not senior associated. I think just by having it at the senior center, that, I don't know if you'd call it stigma, but that sort of association would stick with it as opposed to having it at 135 field. Where at the field, where at 135 would it be?
It would be to the left of the pavilion. So you have the pavilion, we have enough space to leave some grass, some green area, and then we could build 4 courts going north to south.
That seems like a no-brainer to me. It seems perfect.
I mean, it's flat, it's level.
Yeah,
It's a great spot. You would lose that space, but to be honest with you, there's still going to be a lot of green left over. So if people do rent the pavilion, they would still have some space separating from the pickleball area. They want it there because a lot of them come from surrounding towns, the boroughs. They all have a little gang that, play together, and they're not necessarily all from Northborough. So I think location wise, you would, it would be better. And especially for if you want the younger kids to start playing, and you know what I mean? The younger generation, they're already there. So
Yeah,
plus
absolutely.
it's watched. The police drive by there already all the time. So if you put it out at the senior center, I don't know how often the police drive down Barefoot Road, to be honest with you. So I think it's a lot more visible.
It seems
Kind of ask because
clear to me.
I mean, I've never seen it. I've never played. I just thought I thought it was hearing comments that it was very popular among seniors or those getting ready to be seniors, and that, as an activity at the senior center, I perceived there was a request to that, but you might have just dreamed it while we were hearing the forum.
Well, John, you have to remember that the seniors who play pickleball do not think of themselves as seniors. They tell me the senior center is for old people. They are not old.
I get it.
I would see pickleball as a
so many reasons. I mean, I guess I'm wondering why even look at the senior center. It just seems like there's
because we don't have a lot of open land. And the rec department just happens to own that parcel that would fit.
Okay.
It would fit. It would just be really expensive. So
what authority do you have then to get that land at Ellsworth McAfee?
Well, again, it's owned by the town and Parks and Rec Commission. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you own them both?
Yes.
Okay. So
it's just whether or not we want to put it in at Ellsworth McAfee. Okay. It's something that would have to be discussed by the Rec Commission, which we haven't met. We're meeting the first week in November. We haven't met in months. So they don't even know about this.
Well, just one comment is that area is often used for other games.
Hey, Ashley, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute to officially recognize you.
Oh, thank you.
So
sorry, I'm late.
Present. It's okay.
I'm late. I'm present.
It's the law, they tell me so.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, like this weekend, people had set up a volleyball court, and I know there's already volleyball there, but I do feel like there are often pickup games right in that section.
Yes, we actually have been having an issue with the volleyball people. They're not supposed to be setting up a net and nailing it to the ground with all of our irrigation. And we have asked them multiple times not to do that on our property, and they keep doing it.
Okay.
But that property is mainly used for the people who rent the property, the pavilion, or if we run rec classes, we run the little kids soccer, things like that over there. So we would just find an alternate location for our rec programs.
Got it.
I think that the seniors have such a right to be there as much as everybody else. So I really think it might be a good fit. That's my personal opinion. I haven't, like I said, I have not spoken to the Rec Commission yet about this. But I just wanted to update you on that because it was such a big part of the meeting last time you guys met. And I did let the pickleball community know that we were moving in this direction and that I would need their support to meet with the CPC and then at town meeting. So they were very excited about that.
Excellent. And I've been jotting down notes to put some of this in the report. And we can also discuss how we might want to tweak action items related to pickleball based on what you've just said and what the game plan is.
Okay.
The only other thing I think I wanted to report is I did get a couple of follow-ups after the forum. One was related to pickleball, which we've covered. And another was from Dr. Volk, who had asked about the Aqueduct Trail at the forum. And he had just emailed to follow up and suggest a couple of things. One was about wayfinding signage. One was about a volunteer corps, which I'm not sure if that's anything that the town has really ever explored before, but we can discuss when we talk through the action plan. And another was a question about outdoor activity facilities. So this is, in a lot of towns now, you'll see kind of some outdoor gymnasium equipment or weightlifting equipment. A lot of towns who are doing healthy aging will install these sorts of things so that maybe seniors who don't have a gym membership might be able to go to a park and do a little bench press or something on a machine that's in there that's cemented to the ground. Allie, please.
Sorry, I just wanted to give you a little background that we actually had that at Ellsworth McAfee around our walking track. Many years ago, it was donated. We had equipment all around.
Okay. And
unfortunately, we had to take it out quite a few years ago because it just fell apart.
Okay.
They were just overused by the wrong people, and they were all broken to the point where we had to just take them all out. So that is something that we've definitely done in the past, and I would say that it was not very successful, to be honest with you. But I
Okay.
do know a lot of communities, but they're more urban, I guess you could say, that, you know what I mean, that has been very successful. But in our specific community, it didn't really work, to be honest with you. It just turned into a jungle gym for the kids all
Yeah.
over the track.
Okay, good. That's useful information, and I can follow up with Dr. Volk. And I think that that was actually the only one of his suggestions that I didn't roll into the proposed action items that I have. So that was just lucky. But I did try to roll in some of the wayfinding signage and the volunteer corps suggestion, because I think that they align well with the goals and some of the objectives that we've thought through. I think that's
When he
all
says
I have.
volunteer, pardon me, when he said volunteer corps, do you think he was personally looking for an outlet where he might volunteer, like becoming involved in Trails Committee activities, or what do you perceive his comment was?
I think part of it was a question to what extent volunteers have been leveraged to meet open space and recreation goals. And part of it was a suggestion that maybe, a volunteer corps might be a good way to get better mapping or to help maintain some of the facilities and the conservation areas through trail clearing or trimming of invasives, things like that. And I'm not sure if that's anything that's been done in town before, but we do see that in some communities, and it could be a really great way to get some of these projects done without having to spend a lot of town money.
Is he
Well,
aware
we've
of our
seen that,
Trails
yeah.
Committee?
Yeah, we've seen that from our Trails Committee a lot.
Yeah, our Trails Committee in Northborough is fabulous. Like I can honestly
Yeah.
say I've never met one better in any of the other communities. They're just so wonderful.
Yeah, they're the
Um,
best in the region, I would say.
I agree.
Most active.
So it's kind of odd that's something he would bring up, because I think our trails are so well maintained, and that our conservation area is so well taken care of that I find that interesting that would have come up.
I wonder if he's thinking, or it didn't sound like
He's-
this, but
He's
maybe
new in
of-
town, he said, right?
He is new in town, so it's entirely possible he doesn't know, and I'm also not a resident, so I don't know as much as you all do. So this is useful information, and maybe if he is looking for an outlet to volunteer, the Trails Committee would be
Yes.
a good group to connect him to.
Yeah, he should certainly start with the Trails Committee, and we could get a better sense of what he's looking for, what he's looking to do, or what he's looking to see done. And if it all falls under Trails Committee stuff, then we'll bring him on board. And if it's stuff that more leans towards Parks and Rec, then we'll send him in a different direction.
Well, good. Yeah, I think that's where he was coming from. He said in his comments that he was new in town, and he was asking about the Aqueduct Trail. He didn't know what to call it, and we directed him there. So that's good feedback. I got a thought, since we're digging directly into what citizen comments were and how it affected the forum, and in the end, it's shaping our objectives. I'd like to suggest we start the discussion with Northborough Unleashed and get all that information in our hands, and then they don't have to hang around for the more boring parts of the meeting. So with no objection, we'll do that. And again, we have Lauren and Lee both for the same subject, right?
Yes, correct.
So why don't I give you the floor and just tell us what you wanted to bring to our meeting that maybe follows on the forum. And we will, obviously put it in our notes and how we craft the open space and rec plan. So go ahead.
Thank you so much, John. I was wondering, Mia, I believe we sent you some slides. Do you have those, or do you want me to present those or
I
put
do
them up?
have them. I'll share it now.
Thank you.
Can you see them?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
good.
So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having Lee and myself here tonight. My name is Lauren Bailey Jones. I'm a resident in Northborough. I've been a resident for almost 4 years. So we are Northborough Unleashed. We are a group of residents here in Northborough, and we got together a few months ago with this passion to try to work with the town to find space for a dog park. Thank you, Mia. So tonight, we're briefly going to go over our mission statement for our group, the benefits, and then the market for the dog park here in Northborough, opportunities for funding, considerations for design and safety, and then some site proposals that we've been working on. So our mission statement is that we are a group of Northborough residents, and our mission is to collaborate with the town to establish a fenced-in off-leash dog park where dogs and their human companions can have a safe, enjoyable, and well-maintained area for both recreation and for socialization. So those of you who have dogs probably already know about the benefits of dog parks, but I will go through some of them for those of you who have never been to a dog park or don't have a dog. So first of all, it promotes responsible dog ownership. And part of that is because it provides a legal area for off-leash dogs. So as we know, the town of Northborough has leash laws. And so it allows dog owners a space that's specifically designed for off-leash dogs. It also allows dogs to exercise and socialize safely. So regular socialization and exercise for dogs is really important. Dog owners know that a tired dog is a good dog. I have a dog who's about a year old, and the difference in personality between when he's tired and when he is amped up and energetic is quite distinct. And then also to support the recreational activity of dog walking and healthy lifestyles. Sometimes my only activity for the day is when I get my dog out walking, whether I go to a dog park or walk around the neighborhood. And community building is really important to our group. So socializing with other dog owners is one of the big draws to have a dog park in our area. We can host events that allow dog owners to meet and interact, whether it's specific types of dogs or just holding events for dog owners of all kinds. And then finally, the elderly and disabled are also able to access a place where their dogs can go and roam and be safe. So especially people who have challenges walking, maybe they're wheelchair bound, this could be a place where they can safely let their dog off leash, let them get socialized and get their energy out while they're able to also stay safe as their human companions. So we have about 1,500 registered dogs in Northborough. Due to the puppy pandemic palooza that happened in the recent months, that's likely to increase in the next couple of years as many people purchased dogs or adopted dogs during the pandemic. Now the master plan of 2020, so we read the open space and recreation goals that were presented in that plan. So we took straight from the plan on page 6-6 that your goal is to maintain and expand opportunities for recreation and residents to residents of all ages and abilities. And one specific recommendation is to consider the development of a town dog park. So in line with that, that was sort of one of our motivations to sort of get this conversation going. One issue that's been happening a lot is at Kearney Park. So there has been a lot of discussion about the illegally off-leash dogs at Kearney Park and how can we solve that issue? Not only can it be a safety issue, but there's also conservation issues with the erosion happening there. And so this dog park or proposed dog park could alleviate some of these issues. Also, we do have dogs often off leash on Northborough trails. So again, if there's a place for these dogs to run free off leash in a safe area, that's really what we're looking for. It could attract people from surrounding towns to support Northborough businesses. If they're going to come to our town to bring their dogs and their family, they may shop, they may stop at restaurants and support our local businesses. And also new homeowners. Believe it or not, dog parks are actually a high search term for people who are house hunting. So we realized that a dog park does require funds. So we've been researching different ways that this potential dog park could be funded. So first are CPC funds, which I heard Allie talking about earlier about pickleball. So we realized that CPC funds go through an application process, and I believe that the date is every November when these applications are due. Furthermore, there's the Stanton Foundation grant. So this is a really interesting grant because the Stanton Foundation partners specifically with Massachusetts towns, and they work with groups from start to finish to get dog parks in their communities. So they typically help about 10 communities build dog parks a year. And right now, they historically have built 36 dog parks in Massachusetts. There's also other programs as well. So there's the Pet Safe Bark for Your Park grant program that help fund new parks, but then they also help with maintenance of existing parks, which could be really great down the road. And then we could also collect donations. So there's a couple ways we could do this. We could file for an EIN number to collect donations. We could partner with a fiscal sponsor, such as Northborough Rec. And then we could also have fundraisers. So selling bricks, sort of like the Town Common project. We could have benches and memories of pets, a 5K, corporate sponsors, and so on. We're open to more ideas. So as our group met this summer, so we met quite a few times, we really thought about what do the families in Northborough desire for a dog park? And so in doing that, we actually visited a lot of different parks in Massachusetts and beyond. And here's our list. This is our wish list. So number one is a lot with at least 3 acres, ideally larger, 5 to 7 acres, but we feel that 3 acres is a good size to host a lot of dogs. If possible, it'd be great to have several sections, one for smaller dogs, one for larger dogs, and perhaps one in between where the grass could sort of regrow over time. And also sort of going back to that idea of community. So having an area where community can be sort of center. It could be next to other recreation, but knowing that maybe there's a place where the kids can go play, or the mom and dad can go walk around a track or do something while the kids are with the dog, or something to that nature. We realized that socialization and exercise for dogs and people is really something that's desired from our community. So maybe it's having people be able to walk along a perimeter while dogs are playing in the center of the dog park, have picnic tables or benches. Parking is also high on our list. So we do desire an area where people can park safely and feel safe to park and get out of the car with their dogs and their families. Those of you who have dogs know that shade is very important, especially on hot days. So whether it's natural or human-made canopies. Hydration stations, which could honestly just be a bowl on the ground, and then people bring their own water and fill them up, or something that's a little bit more advanced. A trash can or dumpsters that could pick up the trash that's there. And then hours or a schedule that would allow for play after dusk. So we all know that in the winter after 4:30, it gets really dark. So we would really like a schedule that allows people after work to bring their dogs, which leads us to our last bullet point, which is lighting. So this is something that we've thought about a lot because especially in the winter, we need lighting after dusk. So we would consider perhaps solar lighting. So the last slide I'm going to talk about before I hand it off to Lee is safety considerations. So the picture that you see here is the Uxbridge Dog Park, which just opened this summer. And the picture shows a double gated entry for safe leashing and unleashing when you enter and exit the park. So what a double gated entry is there's one gate. You enter with your dog on leash, you close the gate behind you, you unleash your dog, and then you enter through the second gate and your dog can run free. Like I said before, 2 or 3 separate sections for dogs of different sizes, first aid kit, clear signage with rules. You can see them on the Uxbridge Dog Park, things like requirements for a dog license and vaccines, etc. Lighting, which we mentioned, and potentially security cameras. So I'm gonna just pause right here before we get into the site proposals. So we've done some of our own research on site proposals in town, but I just wanted to open it up for discussion if anyone has anything they want to talk about, any questions you have. No one?
This is John. Go ahead, whoever was speaking, who's talking.
Leslie, I was just curious about the double gated entry. I guess I'm not understanding why that would be necessary. You would just take the dog in to let it off the leash and let it go. And then before you exit, you put the dog back on the leash while you're still in there and then exit. So I'm a little confused about the need for that.
Sure. So it sort of serves 2 different purposes. The first purpose really is so that when you open the gate, a whole ton of dogs just don't go running into the parking lot. So it basically allows you to have flow. So for example, I took my dog to the Maynard Dog Park last week. And when I went to go take him to the car, all of his buddies followed him. So I opened the gate and they all followed him with me. So I was able to sort of, shoo the other dogs away. The other owners called them. I was sort of standing in that middle area. And then as soon as all the other dogs were out of that sort of middle gated area, I closed the gate. It was just me and my dog. And then I could bring my dog safely out into the parking lot. And then also when you're entering a dog park, if I have my dog on a leash and my dog's just going to want to run as soon as I open the gate. So it sort of lets the dog just calm down. It gives you time to unleash your dog. That way, as soon as you open the gate, they can just run. Does that help you picture it, Leslie?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Leslie, those are a norm at all dog parks to have the double gated
really?
entry. Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Allie.
I had a couple quick questions. This
Sure.
is Dan Clark. I was curious, what is it about Kearney Park that makes it unsafe that a dog park would overcome and be safe?
That's a great question, Dan. And it's really about the leash laws in Northborough. So it's not necessarily that Kearney is unsafe. It's more about the leash laws. So people are using Kearney as sort of an unofficial dog park. That's sort of the nickname. It's earned itself in town. And so people are unleashing their dogs, even though there are leash laws in Northborough. And because there are abutters in the field where Kearney Park is, that has become a little bit of an issue. So in a dog park that's fenced in, that's a one gated area where dogs can be unleashed. Did that help answer your question, Dan?
Yeah, I have a dog. I've been to Kearney Park a lot. I was just curious if there's something about the design they're all the dogs are off leash in both locations. So
Dan, a dog died at Kearney Park.
Yeah, I know. But I was wondering, is there something about Kearney Park that makes it unsafe, that having dogs inside a fenced dog park makes it more safe? But I think in my experience, it's really the individual behavior of the dogs that sometimes
Dan,
the owners do.
Just to let you know that the selectmen have taken this issue up with Kearney Park, and they have asked that the dog officer go down and actually ticket people because they're trying to stop people from going to Kearney Park and unleashing their dogs. So there's kind of like a movement going on from the town because they're getting complaints about the dogs off leash. So really this group that is coming before you today is really just trying to do the right thing, because they don't want to, everybody wants to take their dog off leash. It's a better experience with your dog, and they just want to do it the right way.
Yeah. Okay. No, that seems fair. I was curious, are there any abutting towns that have dog parks already?
So I believe that the closest, and Lee, you can jump in if you know too. The closest that I have found, I believe that there's one in Maynard, and Lee, I think there's one in Worcester as well, correct?
Yeah, there is one in Worcester. I haven't been to it, but I think that's the closest one.
Okay, thanks.
So DCR was working with, well, I guess the town, what, a year ago or so, about Yellick, and then that fell apart because of the abutters. So they were willing to entertain fencing and stuff on state land. Have you guys approached that angle for Kearney to actually fencing in some of that field?
Lee, would you
Mia,
like
do you want to take that one?
I can handle that one. It's a flood control facility, and so a fence, the
right.
water is held behind the earthen dam. The overflow is the field where the water sheet flows down into the brook. So any fencing would act as a dam, because the leaf litter and debris during a flood event would dam it up. And so it's actually owned by the Massachusetts Water.
Okay.
It's not the MWRA, it's the Water Resources Authority, which is defunct, but DCR manages it as a flood control facility, as one of 3 in town. So they had said that they were not open to a dog park there. But Lee did request a contact because Northborough Unleashed would like to, what she said was they would like to correspond directly with the state. And so I have put in a request for the correct contact person. And I just emailed Lee that today because I'm poking them, trying to get them to give me a name and phone number.
Makes sense.
Okay, you said you're going to move on to a discussion of locations that you have researched, I understand. Let's go.
Yes, and just briefly, my name is Lee Welch. I'm a Northborough resident. I've been in Northborough for about 16 years now. But I don't know if this is possible, but is it possible to get some feedback from each, for each of these sites as we go through them, or should we wait until the end for comments?
I would wait to the end.
Me and I can help.
Okay, great. So we put together some site proposals. Some of them are town-owned land and others are state-owned land. And again, due to our sense of community, we'd be open to working with other adult recreation areas. So the first site is Zero Boundary Street. I don't know if you're the Open Space Committee, I guess you have some idea of where these places are, but it's right on the Marlborough line. There's 32 acres of land here. And it also abuts another piece of land, which is on the next slide, 455 Main Street. It's also owned by the town. And there's a few other pieces there that also abut it. So there's a big chunk of land over in that area. I kind of think of it, there's a trail there. I'm trying to think of the name of it. There's some trails back there, but off to the Boundary Street side, I don't believe there's many trails over in that area. So we looked at that, we're looking at the map as very uneducated map readers. We see the big space over there and wonder if that's something that we could work with.
Lee.
Yes.
I just wanted to bring up, I'm not sure if you're aware, it's owned by the town, but it's actually owned by the Water Sewer Department.
Okay.
So they own it. You would have to purchase it from them. They're separate than the town. They have their own account. Everything is separate. So when you pay your water sewer bill, it goes into an enterprise fund, and that's who owns that property. And it was bought for a specific purpose so that if we can't share with Marlborough's water sewer treatment plant, we would have property to do that on our own. The reason I'm aware of this is because we have tried to build fields on that property. And you would literally have to purchase the land from them because it's a different enterprise fund. And that's why it has not been used by things like the rec department and other places for different things.
Okay, that's really helpful. And again, as a private, group of citizens, this is the kind of information that we don't have. So this is really good information.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, Is that true for Zero Boundary and 455 Main?
I know Zero Boundary. I'm not positive on 455. Mia, do you know the answer to that?
We'll look in the town GIS.
Okay. I'm pretty sure it is because I think they all go together. To be honest with you, I have looked at every piece of property that we own in this town for either a field or a dog park. So I think I have a lot of history on these because I've been trying to do this for about 10 years now. And this was a really nice piece of property that they won't let me go near.
Okay, so that's really helpful information.
All of it's water and sewer.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, in 455 Main is, as well as those abutting lots. Okay.
Yeah, I remember it was probably 12, 13 years ago now that we went to town meeting to purchase all of that for that specific reason using the water sewer enterprise money.
Okay.
I have on the other hand, I don't think you should take it off the list because, you know, it is a pot, we could buy it. It's a lot of land, and I like dog parks. I go to dog parks. So I don't want to put it down. I also like wastewater treatment facilities. I'm a water engineer as well. So I think the uses would be, they could cohabitate. They would be happy together.
Okay, but it's actually just not really town-owned land. So it would be more of a purchase. Okay.
Sorry.
Ask a question. Allie, was that land, you said you looked into purchasing that for Parks and Rec. Was it that they wouldn't sell it or that the price tag was just untenable?
They won't sell it. They're keeping it for a reason. They don't know what the MDR, I don't know an acronym for it, but the Marlboro Sewer Treatment Plant, they don't know. If they fill up, they're just going to tell Northborough, you know.
No, I understand. I was just slightly confused because I thought you said that at first that one would have to buy it, but now you're saying that it's just not for sale.
They are not. Yeah, they're not. I mean,
I'm
we
just
might
looking
be
for
able
clarity.
to convince them to sell us 3 acres of it, but what I was looking for was a lot more land. I was looking for an Ellsworth McAfee Park.
Yeah, we could look for 3 acres that couldn't be used for wastewater and maybe carve it off and get them to give it to us, or sell it to us. But we'd have to do a little more research.
Okay. That's interesting.
Before you go on, I just had a quick question. So it would be good to know, and you might not know the answer to this, whether these properties are all forested and if they would need to be cleared. And as you go forward, kind of describing them. And the other thing is, I assume that you'd be wanting for a dog park to completely clear just as you would for recreational fields. But that may not be true. I just don't know.
There has been discussion about having open fields as well as in addition to some trails around an open field. So I think, you know, depending on the property, we would be open to either one of those options. But I do think that you're correct that there will be a certain amount of clearing being done for the dog park, especially in these areas. I have been over to Zero Boundary and 455 Main, and I think they are. That's not my specialty, but they're thick forest. So it would require clearing for these 2 pieces.
There's some historic pastures there that some local farmers still grow in.
Okay.
They're tucked way far back off the trail.
Okay. Is that over by where the picnic table is?
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot of picnic tables.
Okay.
If you go in from Main Street, that's how the farmer gets in. That's how I get in. But there's also forested areas, and then Maydog up in Maynard, which is a really highly regarded dog park, is all forested.
Thanks, Mia.
It was forested before when they had to clear that. Is that what you're saying?
They just cleared room for the fence, maybe for parking. They may have cleared for some parking. I'm not sure what the parking area was before, but it's all wooded.
It is nice in there because there's shade, like natural shade in there, which makes it an enjoyable visit for sure. Well, thank you for your commentary on those 2 for Zero Boundary and 455 Main. Next up on the list is the ever popular Ellsworth McAfee Park. So it's owned by the town, as you know, and the piece that we were looking at is the back of the park. Again, we estimate there's about 4 to 6 acres at the back of the park. a couple considerations that we see is the Assabet River runs right along that back piece, and the setback is 100 yards or feet, one of those. So that would take up some space back there as well. Part of that area is already cleared. So the amount of clearing being done might be minimal. And then there's also the ability to leave a buffer between the park that's in the playground that's in the back and the soccer fields. So there would be a natural buffer as in addition to the fence there as well.
Lee, can I jump in on that one?
Yes, please.
I've actually proposed this piece of property for a dog park in the past.
Okay.
And the reason that there is cleared land back there is because it's a water sewer easement. So we cannot put anything over there. They won't, it's owned by the water sewer connection. They use it. That's why they clear it. It's vital to their what they do during the day. So they will not allow me to put anything. That's why that land is not turned into fields and cleared and all that stuff.
Right.
It has a purpose. So they won't, that was where I had originally proposed it, probably 6 or 7 years ago when we had our original dog park group. But it was quickly put down that was not a good location for that.
Okay.
Speaking from a conservation perspective, I would say steering clear of anywhere that comes close to wetlands or rivers or streams is a good practice, because I think the big issue that a lot of conservation groups take with dogs unleashed on conservation land is that they will end up, going to the bathroom close to streams or just getting close to wetlands and streams and kind of eroding, the banks. So I think the Assabet River is such a key resource. That's probably one to steer clear of.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your feedback. Moving on to the next piece of land is 200 School Street. It's on the corner of Brigham and School, kind of in the Juniper Golf Course area. There's a DPW building there, I believe.
That's the water department.
Okay, so again, this is owned by the water department?
I don't know if the land is owned. That's just where the water barn is. The highway barn is on Route 20, the water barn, and actually they're going to be putting a new building there as well. I don't know. I believe it's owned by the town, but I don't know how much property is water sewer or if it's just the building.
It's all water sewer, and the new barn is going in behind the old one, and the well is down there too. So that area wouldn't be off limits. I think the biggest hurdle there would be the abutters.
Okay.
You'd have to purchase it from the water sewer enterprise.
Okay, so that's good to know.
I wonder if the neighboring golf facility might be an even better place for a dog park if they were willing to sell, because they use about half of that property for the golf lessons. And that would actually be probably a really nice place.
Okay, we can jot that down. Thank you.
Are you talking about the golf practice field is further up School, right? Were you referring to what appears to be a vacant lot on the corner going in the golf course direction of School?
You're talking about School in Brigham, right? Where the water barn, the water garage is?
Right, so diagonally across from that is land that I think is owned by the golf course, but.
So further up School is the practice facility for the golf course. I don't know if it's owned by the golf course as well, but it's like a practice field.
I'm going in the other direction. Like if you're at the corner, and let's say you were going to play golf, so you go down Brigham further, then immediately on your right, at the corner of School and Brigham, there's a flat field. But I think it's owned currently by the golf course or the family behind it.
I think that's the Ellsworth's house.
Tree farm.
And that's my friend's.
That's south. That's southwest of School. I mean, so I'm talking about in the direction toward Main Street, let's say. Not the Ellsworth side. Aren't they all south of that? I'm looking at a map, so.
There's the golf teaching center off of School Street. Is that what?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
Yeah.
That's like north of the DPW barn, right?
Yes.
Right, so go south of the barn, go to the corner, and then directly across Brigham is open land before you would get to the river.
Oh.
Yep.
You know, here again, I think it's part of the golf course, but
I think so.
It's owned
but-
by the family.
I think you would have a lot of trouble with the neighbors, to be honest with you, because that street is slow and they are not going to want traffic. I think you're going to get a huge pushback in a community that has that type of atmosphere. I mean, I'm a huge proponent. I want a dog park, but I just feel like as a town person, the community, you'd have signs in everybody's yards and they would be up in angst over a spot like that. I think we need to find something that there's no, I mean, I thought we had it with Yellick. There was nothing around and we didn't, you know what I mean? It was really a pushback on that. So I think it's really going to be dependent on finding the perfect location to put this.
I agree.
you're more on your list, Lee?
Yes. The next one is Zero Lyman. We believe it's state property. It's the Westboro State Hospital property. There are 2 lots. They're across the street from each other. One is 134 acres, and then the next one is the one across the street at about 162 acres. So, you know, we learned from conservation that there's some buildings coming down on these. I don't know if on both sides of the street or not, but and that some work is being done there. So we didn't know if that was an option. I think there's limited abutters over there, which is appealing. I believe that it abuts Westboro property as well, like the Westboro line. And so that was something that we had on our radar as well.
I think
So
that's a
what's
good
the,
spot, Lee.
Yeah, what do we know about this property that comes up? I know there's long-range planning regarding Northborough's portion. Are you privy to some of that, Mia? Or is that Kathy Jubert's area?
I just met with him today. So the portion on the western side of Lyman Street, the previous slide, is already been obligated to other state agencies, DCR and Fish and Wildlife. The portion on the eastern side has some buildings that are becoming an attractive nuisance. So they're coming before conservation with a plan to demolish those buildings, pole barns, Chauncey Hall, and the tanks at the top of the hill. So in addition, do you see there's a little triangle parcel too, just to the south of this large one. So there's the big parcel and the small parcel. All the buildings are coming down. DCAM's official statement, and they're the Commonwealth's asset management portion. They manage all the surplus lands. Their official statement is that they've been instructed to demolish the buildings, to remove the attractive nuisances, and to prepare them for possibly surplusing them in the future, calling disposition of the land. They cannot comment as to when that will happen or the process for this parcel, but they said when land is disposed of, then it is offered to other state agencies first, then the town has right of first refusal before it goes to a public sale.
Okay.
And I did let them know that the town would like it. They said, the town doesn't have any interest, right? And I said, no, the town has a lot of interest. There's a lot of departments
Yes.
who would like this land. And I didn't know, I saw Scott in the hall, the DPW director, and I said, I know you had a purpose for the land. What was it? And he said, dog park. So it would be a good candidate. There's lots of land. So it's very wet, but there's also lots of land.
Okay. And then
I know that the Department of Ag does license all of those fields to a farmer. So that's actively farmed, not by the state, but by an independent farmer.
Yeah, so they're not all forested. There's a bunch of cornfields there.
Mhm.
okay.
And an airplane field.
That's across the street.
Yeah.
Would Northborough need to purchase that from the state, or is that transfer? It would be a purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But but that doesn't mean a no, because we we could do lots of things with it,
Right.
conserve some, make a dog park, make some
Okay.
rec fields, right? So think big.
Think big. I like it.
Great. The last site that we have on our list is Watson Park. The lot itself is 35 acres. You can see that it has a lot of wetlands. I think, I tried to play with the map a little bit, and I think we estimated that maybe we could get 3 acres out of it if we used all the land along the road, as well as, down toward the boat ramp. Again, it doesn't have a lot of abutters. It's a pretty quiet area, but we would have restrictions with the wetlands. And so, we do question if there's enough space there with the setbacks that are required.
I know that we're looking at that space as well. And, we'd have to work closely with conservation and DPW, because I know they have a watershed over there as well.
Okay. That's
Those water people are everywhere in town.
They're really killing my night, That's okay. I mean, that's just, it's, again, information that, isn't readily available when I look at the map.
Yeah.
So all of your feedback is very helpful.
I think
we'll work closely with you guys. You know what I mean? I know that we have a meeting with Mia, Scott, and myself and you guys to kind of go over some property locations. So I think we'll be able to get a lot more specific at that meeting.
Sure. Thank you.
And just, I mean, I'm sure you guys will talk about this, but I mean, good to think about private land, not just town land, because if there's a property that could use conservation, I mean, it could be a dual CPA application and for recreation and conservation and, doing multiple things. And I mean, in terms of open space and conservation purposes, it just makes sense for everyone to have a dog park in town so that you could relieve some of the pressure from the conservation land, as you guys had noted. So.
And we do have some private properties that are on our radar. I felt it not best to announce in a meeting that we were looking at somebody's land for a dog park. I thought there's probably a better way to go about that. And we also do have a list of just larger properties that are for sale in the area that we would also consider looking at. But just for the purposes of this meeting, I thought that we could get some good feedback on the town-owned land.
This is John. On the subject of locations, just in general, properties that we own as a town or have converted to conservation land or have CRs on, are these all off limits to this, or is it mainly where wetlands would be impacted?
Most of them are passive recreation only. There's no site, like say Shunder's Field is passive recreation only. We recently dove into that CR with SVT because the Trails Committee, this was about a year ago, maybe even 2, they were thinking about doing like a mountain bike festival, and it was prohibited because it wasn't passive enough. Same thing, anything that was before conservation restrictions is protected under Article 97 and then dependent on the deed. So all of Edmund Hill is all passive recreation.
So dog park, dog walking, dog people, that wouldn't pass the test of passive?
Anytime you have to build something, like the disc golf barely squeaked through because it was that's why they got booted for the clearing. Because the disc golf was supposed to just be very, very minimal tree cutting and just the poles with the baskets. So passive's not supposed to leave a mark.
And you'd need probably it to be written into the CR already that you could build a fence, parking, all of that stuff would have needed to be thought about in advance.
Yeah. Well, because to be honest, I was thinking about the Green Street Field, which already has some parking. And it's big, and it really doesn't get a tremendous amount of use. People do cross it and cross into the trails on the other side of the hill, but I wondered about that piece of land unless there's no amending of a CR, I guess. That's kind of what I was getting at in general. Are we limited by the existing protocols we have on certain properties?
SVT definitely wouldn't agree to it, but amending a CR definitely takes 3/4 vote of the state legislature, so it's a big to do.
Understood. Any other locations that people have thought about? It sounds like, Ally, you've got a long history of talking to people about this.
Mhm.
Are there ones that aren't on the map yet, or aren't on the slide yet?
Well, like I said, Mia and Scott and I are going to be meeting with them, and we're going to, as a group, staff-wise, meet together to kind of go over some other options as well. Like, for example, can we find some spot at the Boundary Street that we could kind of purchase from, water sewer? So we're going to look at that offline this week, and then we're going to meet with them, and we'll be able to get more specific with what we can and cannot do.
And Yellick is off the plate completely?
Yes. Yes.
And who
Does
would
the
assume
location-
ownership? I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
Has the location question been the biggest obstacle in your opinion, Ally?
Yes, that's been the only obstacle. I was able to raise the money in 2 days to match the state fund for Yellick. So and all of the grants that she was talking about earlier in the slide are awesome. They want you to build dog parks. They're very supportive of towns building dog parks, and they're giving away money. The money is not a concern for me. It's the location. So that's what as I said, I feel like I'm Debbie Downer here. Everything you're doing, I'm saying that thumbs down, but we've been working on this behind the scenes for a long time, because we've been wanting to do this. We had a very active group about 7 or 8 years ago that wanted a dog park. And, we went through every piece of land that we have in town, and we keep saying, let's wait for the state hospital. And we've been waiting for it for 7 to 8 years. And I don't see it coming up in the next year or two either. So I think we're going to have to get creative, but it's something that the town wants. And I think the higher ups in town now realize how important it is to the community. And so it's being looked at, in a serious way right now. So I want the group to know that we are following through with this. We're meeting with you. We're meeting with, the people in town. Scott, he owns he's in charge of all the water sewer enterprise funds and all their properties. So, you're meeting with the correct people. And I think we'll be able to push something through, with this fiscal year.
That's great. Thank you so much for your support.
We appreciate your slides. I think they were great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other comments or questions?
I was curious about the
I
ownership
think you
once
guys-
it's built.
I'm
So
sorry,
does the
Leslie,
town
what's your
assume
question?
ownership and maintenance? So let's assume this all gets built, and does ownership transfer to the town, or what? And I know you had alluded in the beginning about ongoing maintenance and things like that. How does that all work?
Well, Northborough Unleashed would certainly offer to help maintain, and by maintain, not necessarily mow the property, but to make sure that it stays picked up and is probably well stocked with the supply, like the bags that are needed and things like that. Like the group would support the park in that manner.
I think, Leslie, to answer your question, as far as what the town's concerned, that's something that would have to be discussed when we're going through the process, because you'll find that some towns, it's a nonprofit that runs it and organizes it, and it's not town affiliated. So that's just something that we would have to go through the process to figure out what we would want to do.
Okay, so that's
That's
Okay,
part of
that's
the whole,
not-
that's
not
part of
known at
our
this point.
process. Yes, we don't have an answer to that right
Okay.
now.
okay.
One
sounds
one
good.
more
That is
question.
an answer.
One more question I had, and this Mia might be the person to answer this, back to what John was saying about conservation land. Not all of our conservation properties have conservation restrictions on them. Article 97, would that necessarily prohibit a dog park on conservation land?
The bulk of Edmund Hill, the one in the middle, has a very strict deed from the proctors saying,
Okay.
passive.
How did you know that's what I was thinking? No.
Yeah, that's the only big bulk one I can think of.
Yeah.
I mean, the other option, it's funny because Ally and Scott and I are starting to get together our list so that we can meet and try to
Yeah.
carve some stuff out. And so the senior center came up, and that's the back of Edmund Hill. And two things, the disc golf, not only did the disc golf fail for being not passive enough, there is a portion back there that has a CR that I have to look into, and there's multiple parcels, but that neighborhood recently defeated a private residence initiative to put in a dog walking business, and it was defeated mostly by the unsuitability to the neighborhood. And then disc golf, you know, we had about, I think, 5 public meetings, because I had a public records request specifically that said, how many public meetings have you had to approve this disc golf project? And it was over 5. The folks on Edmonds Way were forming a group to try to defeat the disc golf. It defeated itself with vandalism. Unfortunately, it was a bad situation.
That's right. Okay. Okay.
There is one over, it doesn't, this is one site, maybe I can share, let me get the right mouse here. There was one more conservation piece. I'll just pull it up. Can you see my GIS map?
Yeah.
It's Jubilee. Brian will be familiar with it. This is Jubilee Road. This is owned by New England Forestry Foundation. Then there is a conservation piece in here somewhere. Let me find it. There it is. Conservation owns this parcel. It's about half wet and it's only 3.6 acres. And there are a couple residences. But maybe we could look at abutting land like this back lot here owned by Ms. Zecco, or up a little further. This is another Zecco.
Yeah, to your point, and to the point I made earlier, this whole area of town is some of the last remaining open space if you combine all of these abutting parcels. So if there was ever interest in conservation in this area of town, for conservation plus a dog park, that would be fantastic.
I know SVT, I think, is looking at this parcel here. Nope, that's not it. Do you remember where that lady was?
It's on the other side of a residential neighborhood. Where is it?
Where was she?
I think the last vote
This
was to allow acquisition. No.
Fedrich. Sorry, we're gonna go on a goose chase.
Yeah, well, it was surrounded by residential, and that one she had specifically in her will that it wasn't even for humans to walk on. She just wanted wildlife there. So
private tours.
I just had one question, looping all the way back to some of the property off of Boundary Street. I know that there are 2 fields back there, one of which I think it's maybe Barbarians grows crops in one of their fields. But the second field has been dormant for about 4 years. And I don't know which farm owns it, if they're just not using it anymore, if they don't want it anymore. I wasn't sure if there's any possibility of looking into that field and whether or not we could, buy it back from the farm if they're not using it anymore.
No, it's DCR.
Yeah.
And we could try that, maybe that's something Northborough and Leach could discuss when they go to DCR. It is another flood control facility. This is the back of the Tyler flood control facility, the front of which is the Yellick, where we failed at a dog park last year.
That's mostly all wet right there, right? I mean,
yep. But there is the fields. You see the fields here?
Yeah.
There's a couple. There's this one, and I think this is one as well. And this is the one that the water department owns.
That one looks like a dog. You have to use it. It's shaped like a dog.
You're right.
Well,
serendipity.
This is like a
while you're
Rorschach
on
test.
that parcel, Mia, while it's highlighted, again, what are the obstacles? This came up, do you remember, quite a number of years ago, we thought we could buy it as open space and found that we could not use CPA money because we'd be buying it from ourselves, so to speak. And yet your description earlier was defining how it's part of the enterprise fund. And have we really explored every avenue there?
We'd have to sit down with Scott. He's the DPW director and he's the one who would know the best site for the wastewater treatment. So that's one of those parcels that was set aside for the wastewater treatment facility.
Correct. I just, and again, my memory's bad on it. I feel like there was a point in time when it was considered expendable, and maybe that's changed,
We'll talk to him when we meet with him about that.
Mhm.
Excellent. Lee and Lauren, did you have any concluding comments or anything else?
We really appreciate your time tonight, and your feedback is so valuable to us. So thanks for having us.
You're welcome. My eyes personally have been open. It's not like I don't know if there's a need for dog parks, but it's much further along than I think I'd realized. And just your input, the time you put into the presentation, and then those people that commented at the forum, I've brought it to the top of my attention and ours, I think, on really getting into specific objectives here in this plan. And obviously this is one of them.
Great. Thanks again.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for coming
John.
in.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much for a great presentation.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks for everyone with sort of the misdirection of bringing it up now, but getting it out helps shape our discussion going forward, right? Even if we've taken up quite a bit of the time on hearing about it. So clearly it has to have a place in our final objective, and has already gained a place in the master plan. So.
Mm-hmm. So, John, for tonight, I just have a question. I know that when we originally started this with Sarah, and we were talking about our time frame as far as trying to get this done in a certain amount of time. For tonight, are we going to be kind of looking at the goals that we had set up and sort of kind of finalizing those? Is that your plan for tonight?
Yes, part of our agenda had been to edit them further and add the objectives so that we at least get past that portion of text, right? And I know it's been out there for several months because we've been put off by various things.
Yeah, and if I could chime in, it's really my goal tonight to firm up the objectives and the action items, and to really get this draft ready for publication on the town website, so that we can get some public comment on it. We're definitely nearing the end of the available time into the budget for this project. I'll flag that. So if we could get this as firmed up as we can tonight, I can finalize the draft. I've already incorporated a lot of the public forum comments. While the draft is on the website for comment, we can sort of firm up the support letters that we need to get to submit to DCS, and the ADA evaluations that I know you all have been working on. Those pieces don't necessarily have to be finalized right now, but it would be nice if we could get something out there for a couple of weeks just to get some public comments, give the other municipal departments some time to review, see if there's any comments from any other groups, and then hopefully be in a position to submit to DCS in the next couple of months so that you guys have an approved plan in early 2021, hopefully.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's 8:15, so can everybody give us a solid 30 minutes or so to continue? And let's dig in. I'm looking at what was part of the agenda attachments. It's the draft of our goals. I assume it's the last edits that we did. It has 5 goals. Is everybody looking or referencing the same thing?
Sarah, would you like me to share your action plan?
Yeah, actually, Mia, I was going to ask if you could. So Mia's going to share her screen. I had pulled together sort of a matrix of the draft action plan. I plugged the goals into this, and I also plugged in some draft objectives. Dan had provided some objective feedback, and also Greg from Conservation. So I've tried to roll those in and also provide some example action items. We don't have to keep these. I just really wanted to give everyone a jumping off point. If folks like these, we can edit them, and we can also fill in. You can see here there are fields to indicate the relative cost being relatively inexpensive, maybe a medium investment, and then more expensive, as well as priority. So low, medium, and high for that as well. And then identify responsible parties and potential collaborators. So this is what your action plan will look like. We don't have to fill every tiny piece of this in, but I just wanted to let you all know what it's going to look like when it gets published in your plan, in case that helps inform the way people are thinking about objectives and action items and who we're actually going to put on the hook to hopefully accomplish some of these things.
Can we use this page to comment and edit right from here?
Well, I think we have to tell Mia what we want. I don't think everyone can type, but I think if
just tell me what to type.
Yeah, no. Not so much that, but I mean, is this this screen is our working document, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. So, committee members, please chime in if you have a comment on any of these actions.
Well, I mean, I had objectives that I wanted to add, but it's hard to know if they've already been incorporated or not because I can't see all of it.
Yeah, so Mia, I'm not sure if you want to scroll through. What I've done is I'm proposing we not have more than 3 objectives per goal. 6 goals is a fairly high amount. And for each objective, if we then have to identify action items, I don't want this group to get bogged down by having 60 things that we need to discuss tonight. So we don't need to have up to 3 for every single one, but I'm saying a max of 3 objectives and a max of 3 action items per objective. It's okay if it's less. So I have included a maximum of 3 for each one. So there's only one more on here that you can't see for this goal. If Mia, you just want to scroll down.
Sure. Everyone read these first 2 objectives?
Let's go to the third one first. Yeah, it's hard.
This is the third. Should we do a full read through of all of them or just one? Goal 1.
No, we can read it.
I did.
So is it missing an objective of yours, Ashley?
No, I think it's sort of incorporated. I went into a little more detail on the types of open space, but I think key linkages is good and we know what we want in open space. I just kind of mentioned wildlife habitat, water resources, and trail opportunities. But we kind of know that. But then we have a goal in here, I think it's goal 5 or something, about increasing public awareness or doing more outreach. So does this third objective need to be here or can it be wrapped into the other goal?
Do we go through all the goals? Just get an overview?
Yeah, that would be goal 4. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, so and the other thing I'll say is I think a couple on here you might notice some of the action items might be similar for different goals, and that's okay. There should, in theory, be overlap between these things because they should really all complement each other. So if we don't want to waste an objective under that one because we think we can roll it into goal 4, that's completely fine. We can swap it out and do something else. I do think it's okay, though, if there's some overlap. And there should be, initiatives that are supporting multiple of these items.
Could we go back up to the goal?
Goal 1?
Yeah, just for a second.
So I'm going to go ahead and put the Open Space Committee as the responsible party for all 3 of these objectives. Does that sound fair?
Mm-hmm. I think that looks good.
We have 5 goals now. Is that right? I heard someone say 6.
I have 2 sheets. One is the draft, only has 5, and then I have another sheet that has 6. I think Mia and Sarah, were you working on the one with the 6 goals?
Yeah, this one does include the 6th goal, which is really geared towards accessibility.
I thought we made that goal 5.
Yeah, that was goal 5.
I thought we clearly combined. I have notes from 2 meetings ago. We had, at one point, we had a goal 5, expand connections, and I thought we blended that with goal 3.
I think we'd be best suited if we did an overview. So let's read through all of them so we understand, you know, if we know that things we're concerned about are being addressed in other goals. So goal 1, preserve open space for the town's overall benefit. 3 objectives: acquire through free acquisition, open space, and things that can provide key linkages. The second, develop a schedule to process to regularly review land use changes, identify and prioritize areas for protection and acquisition based on conservation values. And 3, increase public awareness of opportunities to preserve open space. Goal 2 is improve, maintain, manage, and expand opportunities for active recreation to residents of all ages and abilities. The 3 objectives: add more active recreational facilities outside of the school grounds to meet increasing teen and adult recreation needs. Develop plans and costs for maintenance needs for current recreational resources and identify potential funding resources. The 3rd one, promote stewardship of existing recreational resources for their intended uses through a core of volunteers. Okay. Goal 3, improve, expand, and manage open space related recreational activities. Promote stewardship of existing open space through their intended uses through a core of volunteers. Increase public access to riverfront and water-based recreational activities. Where possible, incorporate passive recreation opportunities into active recreation facilities. Goal 4, improve community awareness and commitment to conservation. Centralize information on recreation resources and opportunities for public access. Support placemaking by communicating the location, history, significance, and current conditions of Northborough's environment, historical and cultural resources, and historical landscapes. Objective 3, increase awareness of the Community Preservation Committee, Open Space Committee, Trails Committee, Historical Commission, and other very important efforts to preserve the character of the town. Goal 5, expand connections between existing open space and community resources. Integrate enhanced signage, visibility, and walkability at the town's recreation facilities and trailheads into overall open space and recreation network improvements. Seek opportunities for greenway connections, and a 3rd objective to be determined. Goal 6, improve accessibility to parks, open space, and recreational facilities. Improve accessibility when upgrading facilities. Promote public and private sponsored recreational opportunities, and a 3rd one to be determined, but doesn't have to. So those are the 6.
Was the thought that the 6th goal would just get incorporated into goals 2 and 3?
That was one thought.
Yeah.
Okay, that's completely fine. I must have missed, I must have been looking at her list. Can I hold this together?
I thought we discussed goal 5 became part of 3 because it was about expanding open space related recreational opportunities, and that made goal 6 turned back into goal 5. So we
But
had
I think
the accessibility goal was standing on its own, right?
I think that the accessibility goal is one of the most important ones with things that are going on in the communities now. I think it's really important that we make sure that this is an important part of this project. I know with Assabet, it's kind of made us a lot more aware in town of what's going on, but I just think that as far as the trails, not just the playgrounds, but any part of open space recreational needs to be accessible. We have quite a few people in town that do use wheelchairs. We have children that need help, walkers, things like that. And as someone myself personally that uses the trails all over Northborough, I just think it's really important that this, that is a goal. I was actually going to ask if we could move it up to exchange it with goal 2, like switch places with it so that it was higher up. I realize that they don't have a value in goals, but I'd like to see it kind of more at the top with, I just think it's really, personally, I think it's an important thing for the town to acknowledge and to look at.
Yeah, we had discussed previously that it needed to both stand on its own and be
Mhm.
expanded.
Mhm.
And then, Mia, your own draft that you put out with the meeting confirms what we did previously, which was you made goal 3's objective. One of its objectives was to expand the connections between existing open spaces, et cetera. So that's where I think we can press back to 5. I don't know if we overlooked that.
I think where things got put together wasn't the two to improve, expand, manage, active and passive, weren't those together in the last? I don't know. I'm having a hard time following between the draft that we reviewed over email and the way it
This is
looks
what we
now.
reviewed. This was the previous without the action plan.
Yeah.
So if we're stepping back and looking at just goals, right? We're just reorganizing the goals. That sounds like where we're headed right now.
Yeah.
Ashley, are you
so much
talking about-
reorganizing as we had a pretty clear 5 goal thing. We may have just forgotten because of the time. And fathering on what Ali said, we wanted accessibility to be clearly defined, highlighted, and as far as moving it up in number, you know, I have no objection, but it was that's where we left off. So I think going back to those words would be helpful because we already went through it.
Can you see it? Can you see the previous? I call this version 2. This is the one that you guys took home as homework, and we did receive comments from Dan and Greg on
I'm
this.
reading your own attachment, Mia.
That's not up.
What's that?
It's not this format, but it's just it says draft open space and rec plan goals, updated goals. And so that's my memory of the 5 goals and the wording, and then we took it from there.
Sarah, do you have that sheet, the draft with the 5 goals?
Yeah, and I think I might be struggling a little bit, and we had touched on this when we spoke earlier today, Mia, is that I think sidewalks becomes kind of its own animal when we're talking about connections, and I'm not sure that it combines as well. If we're combining, what would have been goal 5 with goal 3. I'm not sure if we can talk about trail linkages in the same way that we were talking about sidewalk connections. And I'm not sure if that's where I've gone astray here and pulled that back out on its own.
Okay, I think this is what, can you see? This is the version we sent home. You can see I moved accessibility up to number 2. Otherwise, it's what was sent home for homework. And in this one, we had put connections under goal 3.
We had I think we discussed that at some length and came to a consensus that looked okay under goal 3 and objective 1.
Okay.
I don't think we're losing anything by the way it's laid out. If someone disagrees, I think it covers it well enough. If we're looking to make sure the sidewalk objective is an individual objective, couldn't that be done? Because it did score highly in the survey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we can ignore in the action plan document, we can ignore the one that is specifically about connections and just maybe pull out our best favorite objective or make that goal what that goal would have been into an objective under number 3.
It certainly seems like one of the more important things, you know, right? It was being able to walk or bike there and then making connections. So I think we're on the right track there.
So are we agreeing that these are the 5 goals that we want to use and move forward with?
So, John, not to complicate things, but I had suggested a 6th goal. I don't know if you have that text, Mia.
Bring up your comments, Dan. And Sarah and I spoke, and what we thought is, let me bring up Dan's before I speak.
Yep, pardon me if I missed it, if it's an email.
I think you have it up, Mia.
I did. I opened it by accident. Can you see it now?
Yes.
So this is Dan's 6th goal, is about maintenance and restoring. So in Sarah's action plan, she added the word manage to what's on this page, goal 2 and 3. So instead of saying improve and expand, we changed it to improve, expand, and manage.
Mhm.
And one of the objectives under each one we suggested should be an inventory of the facilities and the conditions.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. I mean, that 3 is really related to recreational opportunities. So I think my goal was a little broader than that. It's more about sort of the ecological aspects of the open space that we manage. That probably isn't captured or compatible with that goal. It's not really related to recreation.
Can you scroll it down a little, Mia? I'm missing the top of page 2.
Sorry, 1 second. There you go.
Dan, could you add the word manage to goal 4 for conservation? Awareness and commitment to, I'm just trying to think if there's a place we can add it to the conservation section. Because I understand what you're trying to say, because as someone who has to maintain a lot of these facilities, it's definitely not a big goal for some of the higher ups, you know what I mean? So I think that,
yeah, I mean,
I think it's important.
Yeah, this is something we struggle with a lot at DCR is we acquire open space, but there's a responsibility to manage what you now own.
Correct.
And it could be facilities, or in my perspective is more the ecological responsibility of some of these open spaces. You know, what are you going to do with them?
Well, the perfect example is the dog park. Yeah, we buy a piece of property and we put it on there. Who the heck's going to maintain it? You know what I mean? So I completely understand where you're coming from. And I think it's definitely an important goal, not just to recreation, but to the open spaces. I'm just trying to find a spot. I mean, I don't know, do we want to add a 6th goal or do we want to try and incorporate it? What do you think, John?
Dan's points seem to be objectives or even actions underneath objectives, whether they, you know what I'm saying? They're very specific and they're spot on, but
I just couldn't find a goal where they fit. So I made up a new goal. I guess that's my point.
What's the title of it again? I got a small screen or I can't see. Here we go.
I can make it smaller.
Dan, what do you think about adding it to goal 1? If you said preserve and maintain open space for the town's overall benefit. And then make it an objective underneath.
Well, I think that that goal has some really good objectives. The 3 objectives that I saw in the what Sarah put together looked like really good objectives, and I wouldn't want to eliminate one in favor of like kind of cramming this all in there.
Yep. No, I hear what you're saying.
I like it under 3. You know, we could say improve, expand, and manage open space facilities.
Yeah, take out recreational.
Yep.
Yeah, because then it makes it the broader span that Dan was talking about.
Goal 2 is the first place. Well, I'm sorry. What's goal 2 on this page?
Yeah, we need to get back to the original.
Is improving and expanding active recreation.
Correct.
Is that the same as open space related recreation opportunities?
Can say conservation land. Improve, expand, and manage conservation land.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you're right.
Yeah.
We see recreation in the second one, so we don't need it in the third one. You can
gonna
make
go
it
back
more
to the other
specific.
Oh, but that's
Almost
not.
like one's
that's
active
not,
and one's more passive.
That's number one. Number one is to preserve more land.
Correct.
Number three is to manage it and to increase passive recreation opportunities on it.
Right, to build something that the people can do on the land that we purchase.
Okay. So you were talking about now this is the doc, this is our working document right now. Goal 3, we're looking at changing open space related recreation opportunities to conservation land.
I don't know, but that doesn't work. Doesn't work though. Improve, expand.
Because then it would fit. Let me grab some of Dan's objectives.
I don't know that you have to be specific with conservation land. Can't you
No.
just say open space property or?
But doesn't get at the recreation, the passive recreation opportunities that goal was originally talking about. So we can't really say just conservation land or open space.
I'm trying to think of the right word. It's not coming to me. It's not conservation. You know what I mean? Or can we just say improve, expand, and manage passive recreation properties?
I don't know why why can't we do a goal 6? We just really don't want 6 goals.
That was my question. We seem to be trying to jam it. Are we opposed to having 6 goals or something? Or?
Write it up. What's your title for goal 6? I can't follow the documents because we keep going back and forth. I never saw it before. It says we make this whatever we want.
Goal 6 is to have only 5 goals.
I think it's totally, that's arbitrary. So if there's
If I was
it
gonna
seemingly has enough specific objectives that don't mesh elsewhere, write it up as goal 6.
Yeah, and I would say if we wanted to squeeze 2 goals together, it would be the 3 and 4 on this page. We don't need separate goals for passive and active recreation, do we? We want to expand passive and active recreation opportunities. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Talking 3 and 5, Ashley?
3 and 4.
Did you mean 3 and 5, or did you
whichever
mean...
ones looked the same except they were passive and active? And give Dan his own goal there.
I just want to find out what it said before.
Yeah, sorry. I screwed it up.
And Dan, I appreciate you thinking of that because I think that's, you know, we're looking at new space. We're looking at what we can do to create all this new stuff. You know what I mean? And we're kind of passing over the maintenance of what we do have.
Yeah, it's a big investment that we've made. We ought to make sure we take care of what we have. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, so are these our 6 goals then?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move into objectives. I'm gonna do.
Did Sarah already make objectives for us to look at on the other page? Because I think that those were pretty spot on, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I did. And I don't know if it's too confusing to toggle back and forth. Mia, I could read through them. I'm not sure which way it's the easiest for you.
I'm trying to update it. Let me save me just a minute. Why don't you guys start on the
read the text off,
before
copy it over.
Before we do that, can I just make another plug for combining 3 and 5? Yes, John, that was what I was saying, 3 and 5. Because 5 is kind of covered by goal 2, and whatever's not covered by goal 2, I think you can roll into goal 3.
So are you saying to keep 3 or keep 5?
Keep 3. 5 can go. It's kind of covered by 3.
Okay, I would agree with that.
So
I
five
would
is
also
just,
agree with that. And a lot of the objectives and action items that I had drafted for you folks tonight were very, very similar, just geared more towards open space or more towards recreation facilities. So I think it makes a lot of sense to combine those.
Okay.
So goal 3 would just have to talk about active and passive.
Yeah, to manage active and passive recreation.
the paragraph description already touches on it. I mean, we may be spending too much time differentiating passive and active. They overlap, right?
Absolutely. And both are as equally important.
So how about this? Now that the goal 6 has become goal 5 and it exists, let's fine tune your objectives. Dan, any spot to combine them, edit? You have the floor.
Most of these are just ideas that I thought of that would, sort of the idea behind it is a commitment and recognition of things that we can do to either manage or improve or maintain the space that we already have. So
when you look at them, do you see any opportunity where one of your line items could be an action under an objective?
I feel like all of them are actions, and we could come up with some
you've got, for
objectives.
instance, you have one that says maintain existing fields and meadows. And then you have line 5, explore options for deer management. Wouldn't that be an action onto a objective? Just a
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's probably what these are more in line with. So I guess I don't have any objectives written.
I think the objective is probably very vaguely develop plan and costs for maintenance needs. And then we get a little bit more granular with what you've proposed here, Dan, which I think are great action items.
For instance, a maintenance plan would involve doing an inventory, and that's part of our open space plan anyway, right?
Yeah.
Line 6.3 could almost stand on its own as an objective, because we've touched on this. Obviously, one of the newly voted articles from the CPC this past year involved a more comprehensive look at treating invasive species. We took a step in that direction, right?
Oops.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I mean, some of these are pretty big topics. Yeah.
I would say like invasive species, forest management. What else? What would be like a third big overarching objective, Dan?
Well, 6.2 is like an objective. Even though it duplicates the text of the goal in a way, but you're really looking to make it clear that we need an objective and an initiative toward the maintenance side, or a continued commitment to maintenance.
Yeah, so I mean, the way we approach this in my agency, we develop land management plans. So we have land management plans that specifically are geared towards addressing a lot of these action items. So the overarching place for them is in our land management plan. And within the land management plan, we talk about invasives, we talk about forest management, we talk about wildlife.
So develop land management plans for inventoried open space properties. Because we will be inventorying them for this plan.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I'm used to approaching it.
Okay, I think I have converted the action plan to our new goals. So we can switch over to that document. And we're working on goal 5, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just don't forget those notes that were just at the bottom of that page.
So I'm sorry, when I was doing this, I heard you guys talking about maybe some of these would be action items.
Okay.
So did you identify any specific objectives? Was that ever narrowed down?
That one we just said, if anybody agrees, was to develop land management plans for inventoried open space property.
Develop
open
land
space and
management plans.
recreation property.
And what you have there is an action, is it not the overarching objective?
Okay.
Well, that we decided that was something we have to do for this plan anyway, right? To inventory the properties. So it wouldn't be an action if we've already done it. Is that correct?
I think it's more of an in-depth inventory. The inventory for this is more like, Sarah and I were talking about this, it's more like excellent, good, poor. This would be more of an inventory of like what resources it is. I know
see.
I've read CRs, you know, like it's woodland, it has recreational facilities, has this many fields, and the fields are in this condition. The bathrooms are in this condition, the pavilions in this condition, like a real asset inventory. Is that what you were saying?
Right. This plan will give a good list of the resources in town, but it won't really document those very specific conditions, other than to say, you know, good condition, fair condition.
Got it.
So do we have an objective under goal 5?
Yeah, it was the develop land management plans for existing open space and recreational facilities.
Okay. Can you see goal 5? Everyone's looking at the right. It says my screen sharing is paused. Uh-oh.
We can see it, but there's if you're typing, we can't see it.
I see. Okay.
Oh, it just popped up. Yeah,
it's working.
I reshared it. Okay, and then from Dan's notes, he also says, we were talking about invasive species, inventory and explore control options for invasive species. Is that another action item?
What do you think, Dan?
I think probably everything I had listed is more suited to action items than.
But if we wanted to combine them into making 3 very like sort of all-encompassing actions, I don't see them anymore.
Forest conditions and deer management. Just speaking from my land management experience in town, it's very hard to get a forestry management plan done, even on private land. And no one seems to like the poor hunters because of managing the deer. I like them, but.
Yeah. Well, it would be good to have it in here in case we wanted to support deer management and make it a priority. I know Northborough doesn't seem open to that, and a lot of the residents don't.
They're out there. The hunters are out there doing their thing quietly with the bows. Just let them do their thing. You know? Okay. I think
don't raise the profile.
what was said to me by some, I won't even say who, someone was like, this is bigger than recreational marijuana. You can't just do hunting in Northborough. It's too many residences, but they're out there. They're out there doing it under our current policy. I think we just should let them do their thing. Okay. So maybe focus on the other one, the forestry management.
Yeah. And in that first action, should we include all open space facilities, not just recreation? So recreation and open space. Okay. Or recreation and conservation.
Okay. The first one. Oh, existing open space. Okay. So we've got our first objective and our first action items. Do we have any other objectives under this? I don't know if we do under this goal. These are strong.
Does this cover the actions? For instance, you know,
How about maintenance of existing?
Yeah.
is that more important than the inventory item that you now have in the first spot?
Well, the inventory identifies what maintenance needs to be conducted. So maybe the next objective would be to conduct or prioritize maintenance activities. Can't spell prioritize. Sorry, this is not letting me type here.
Yeah. You might need to go into another box or something.
There we
That's
go.
weird. Yeah.
So does that sound correct? Prioritize maintenance. Based on inventory results. That's more of an action item.
Yeah,
Maybe-
I'm thinking if it, yeah, it would need to be a little more overarching, right?
It's more like something like develop maintenance plan.
Yeah, I think
We-
develop plans and costs for maintenance, and identify funding sources also, I think is something that needs to be rolled into this.
Well, so so we're developing plans in objective 1. Would we be actually doing maintenance in objective 2? Because objective 1's all about kind of the planning for the management.
Okay.
So objective 2
No, this is tricky.
should be about the resources or how to actually do the maintenance. And I'm not sure the process within town.
Well, normally once you find out everything that's wrong, you then have to prioritize, you know, what you're going to do
Got it.
first, make an action plan. But that sounds like an action item.
Right. It would be probably under objective 1.
How about instead of forest conditions, we focus more on prioritize the maintenance? I don't know.
Makes sense. I don't know why your first action couldn't encompass inventorying the key items and then
Right.
Then the next objective would be to conduct some maintenance. How do you say that nicely? Conduct identified maintenance priorities.
That's good.
how about execute instead of conduct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Doing something.
Okay, so what are the action items there?
Well, where do we lack resources to do this today? You know, what are we trying to expand on? Is it more resources in the DPW? Is it recognition of certain properties we're not maintaining?
Well, this is where it's difficult because when I started here 19 years ago, there was, 14 DPW workers. Now there's 8 or 9. So they're going, there's a lot less of them, and we've acquired a lot more land in 20 years.
Wow.
I mean, just town common, there's so many things that they have to maintain with a lot less people. So I think that, maintenance priorities, all I know is when Scott sees my number come up, he sort of sighs and just goes, what does she need now? You know what I mean? So I don't have any way. The rec department is just the recreation planning. I'm not parks. I might schedule the fields, but I don't maintain or take care of them. That's all done through the DPW. Lucky for myself, I'm married to one of them, so I know how much they complain about what I ask them to do. But I just know that I think we might in the future need to look at outside resources, because we are not adding staff to that department, but we're adding responsibility, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wonder-
you're hitting on something extremely key. So we're short on resources.
Yes,
How are we
absolutely.
going to, how would we address it? And something we haven't talked about at all yet in this evaluation.
Well, you look at towns like Shrewsbury, they outsource all the mowing. There's no, they pay a company to come in and mow every field in their town. I'm not saying that's what I want to do. I'm just saying there's other, there's ways to look at, having help. Of course, it costs money, but there's
Wonder how
other
much more, so on the money part, I wonder where else we can leverage CPA for maintenance actions that would still qualify under CPA, just as we did this year again for the Bartlett Pond. And actually the way that was worded, it was not specific to Bartlett Pond, if I recall. We gave it the
general.
Gave it some flexibility to address other locations, but still it was a specific action. A specific article that gained us funding for that piece of maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I just identified an action.
I would agree.
Either that or it's part of an objective that has something to do with funding it. Because our objective is doing it. So we got to look for funding. So
Mm-hmm.
I wondered,
I would leverage CPA as a source for funding.
it kind of goes back to this idea that Dr. Volk was mentioning about the core group of volunteers. We have a great active trails committee, but could we have another group that does that for the active recreation facilities?
The
That's
only
interesting.
reason that makes me nervous, Ashley, is the perfect example was the group of volunteers doing the disc golf.
Yeah, right. As soon as you said that,
You don't have control over volunteers, and they have great hearts and they're out there to do something that they're passionate about. Doesn't mean they necessarily align with the rules and the expectations that the town might have. So
yeah.
I think the Trails Committee is very committed and works very closely with Mia and works very closely with the town, and it's a great group. I'm not saying we couldn't coordinate another group just like it, but I think it's just like with the rec department. It's very difficult for us to take on volunteers because there's no consistency to whether they're going to be there. You know what I mean? It kind of opens up a
Yeah.
whole nother avenue. So I don't know if you would necessarily want to make that an action item.
What about other town cleanup days? We used to have one, and maybe we still
Yes.
do. It's not this year, but what about cleaning days that are specific to certain rec facilities? And then obviously you need staff to supervise it, but at least it's a supervised group of volunteers.
I think people would be really into that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so instead of a set volunteer core that we release on a site, it's more like we identify a maintenance activity that needs completion. And we do this in trails all the time. We often have a list going. And then like a Hindu youth group just approached me with 20 teenagers who were like, we need some community service hours. I already had a list. I was like, pick from these 3 things. And they removed any image of disc golf from Edmund Hill in a morning. And so really we try to match the group we do with Boy Scouts. A lot of times we get an Eagle Scout or we get a group of Cub Scouts and we try to match them. And so I think and Allie too, she's got a cadre of dedicated volunteers that, we can match.
Yep. So maybe is the action item to develop some sort of shared resource for different groups to put their opportunities into. That way it's easily accessible when volunteers approach the town.
That's actually something that we were looking at through the rec department, because you get requests from all different groups, Girl Scout, Boy Scouts, Eagle Scouts, you know, National Honor Society, and there's no one place. So we were actually thinking as a rec department of kind of collecting all of this stuff so that when people do need volunteer hours, there's a main spot to kind of find it. So I think that's a good idea.
But can't we say it that way? You know, expand volunteer.
I'm trying to think of how to word it. Yeah.
And include the words such as for community service, and somehow create those opportunities for them. Because, you know, like you just said, if you put it out there, all those kids looking for some community service, I mean, they're just looking for, where do I do it?
Right.
But then someone has to coordinate that and manage where they go, and ultimately falls back on staff, unfortunately, but not necessarily. I mean, some of it may overlap with Trails Committee people, for instance.
Yeah.
That already happens, right? When you do like a Boy Scout project.
Yeah, a lot of it too is that you do have an adult, like for example, I have a Girl Scout group that will come in and do a spring cleanup at Assabet and clean up anything that's been left over in this, you know, in the winter. And they kind of do like a huge massive cleaning for us. And they have troop leaders that, you know, that are there to supervise, and they take care of that. And it's a great project for them. It's a great project for the town, because the DPW guys don't have time to clear the parking lots and all that other stuff. So it works out well.
How's this looking?
Good.
It looks great.
Yep.
But it looks like the next objective got left over from something else. FYI.
Yep. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that one belongs to what was previously for.
Yeah, I copied it.
Oh, okay, good. It's not.
We ready to go to 4? Do we need another objective for 5?
Excuse me, Mia, go back to under the objective execute maintenance. Second action looks like we just kind of fell off in any kind of description. Apply for funding for maintenance.
CPC.
You know, explore additional resources for funding, including through the CPA, for instance, specifically.
I can also, just in the interest of everyone's time, if we get down general, I'm taking notes, Mia's typing things in here. I can clean these up a little bit. It's already 9 o'clock and we've gone through one goal. So I don't think we need to write every single one out exactly, because I will clean it up and circulate it to this group.
Okay, thank you.
Fair enough.
All right.
Sarah, specifically, how many more open space meetings of collaboration do you think you'd have in the contract? One
Not
more month,
very
2 more
many,
months?
John. I would really have liked for this to be my last one, truthfully. I think we might already be out of scope. I might be able to squeeze one more.
Well, I think the stuff that we have up here, we've already agreed on. You know what I mean? The goals, the other goals we've already talked about as a group multiple times. So if you guys want to just take a quick look at the action items, she can clean it up like she said. Just, you know, if you see something glaringly that you don't agree with as far as an action item, or you want to change, we can do that. But I think that what Sarah put together here is actually, I read through it. I think it looks really good.
Yeah, let's you go 4 now. So read through these 2 and then I'll scroll down.
Okay. Second action, launch a mailing campaign. Could it
when
be?
is that?
So I think that came from Dan's.
No, it came from Greg.
Was that Greg? Was that Greg?
So Greg
Well, I mean,
wanted, what he wants to do is he wants to engage students. He feels like we're not engaging the middle school and high school students enough. And so one of his examples was, I don't know, launch a mailing campaign that, you know,
Right.
so
I was just commenting on the words of it. So launch a communication campaign,
Yes.
How about an engagement?
including social media, which is probably 99% of it.
Well, not only that, you would,
And
when it
mailing.
comes to students, you would contact the schools and go through them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that
So communication
added-
campaign is probably sufficient, maybe, I don't know.
yes,
the one objective, or maybe it's an action that I added under this goal in my draft, was to engage the school system in using recreation and passive recreation facilities for learning, for outdoor recreations, for science, whatever it might be.
well, it's interesting because we use it for camp when we're at the schools. And I talked to like the custodians and some of the teachers, and they're like, I didn't even know there was a trail back there.
Yeah.
Like, what are you
Right.
talking about?
Yeah. Great resources. I mean, they can take field trips to town properties. I mean, really,
Absolutely.
so.
Yep, they take field trips to the old cemetery, they do things like that. But I think that, getting the kids outside, and it's just important to show them what we have available in the town. And I think that's something that recreation can really step up with as well. Because I communicate with the schools all the time. It's just, different types of communication, but I have that avenue.
So I think I changed the second objective because I think Greg was trying to engage some of the existing clubs. So they already have a hiking club. The middle school has an environmental club. And he and the previous agent, Kale, they actually would visit these groups and give presentations. But he said he got slotted for an 8 a.m. opening, and the kids were like drooling into their desks. So he's like, launch it better. So I added that from student clubs.
I think the only thing is I might grab that action item that Ashley just suggested and put it under the third objective rather than this one about centralizing information.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Under the third action item.
Yeah, I think Ashley and I are just looking at the goal and not
Yeah.
really the objective.
Exactly. I was just thinking about,
I was doing the same thing. They're all kind of jumbling together. Sorry, guys. My brain is.
Well, now we can move on to this third objective here.
Yeah, is that really where it fits? It's not to bring awareness of the committees, it's to bring awareness of the properties, or to have the schools using the properties.
I'm not sure. I think I did not phrase this objective particularly well because we don't really want people to be aware about these committees necessarily, but the initiatives. So maybe increase awareness of community preservation initiatives, open space.
Or open space and recreation resources.
Yeah.
You want to take out efforts?
Yeah.
And what
Yeah,
about
take out the whole rest of it? Just end at resources.
Okay.
And then it will fit better.
How about increase awareness and public engagement with? No, just awareness.
I see where you're going with that, Mia. I think we just have to come up with the correct
engage.
Yeah, increase awareness of and engage the public in using.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Ready to go to goal 3?
Mm-hmm.
So this was a goal from the master plan.
Yeah, I think
the objective one up here, in case people were wondering where that came from.
Yeah, I think I like very specifically added it into the master plan based on public comments that we got at various meetings.
This first objective, you mean, Ashley?
Yeah, the first objective is what I'm talking about. Yep. Basically, there are recreation resources available at schools, not as many outside of schools, and the ones that are available outside of schools are really geared towards children, not
Correct.
older.
Which was one of our big topics with getting the lights, because now we can put the adults at night.
Got it.
By the way, we turn the lights on and we've been using them all fall. They're amazing.
Awesome.
Do third action at the top of the page. Do we need to just call out build a dog park, or is this good enough?
I think that's good because there were lots of other things that were identified. And so keeping it vague would be good. You know, people talked about tennis courts and pools, lots of things.
And
so
pickleball.
So, I mean, the pickleball's in action 2. Action 3 mentions the dog park, but it kind of leaves it open for other parks that have other amenities. So I think that's good.
Fair enough. So we're good with the top of the page?
Yep.
I think so.
And these 2, and I think there's a third objective here as well, got to some of Dan's comments that we've now rolled into another goal. So I think we might have an opportunity to adjust some of these objectives.
Yep. This
Can
sounds
you-
like it's in another goal, so I should probably take this one out.
Yes, I think unless there are action items that we want to grab and put.
I like
in
that local dedicated funding source for maintenance. That we talked about funding, but we didn't say that specifically, and that's
All right.
that would probably be a good outcome of that
Hang on.
funding.
We're gonna roll down.
And I control copy.
Yeah. That was here, right?
Yeah, apply for funding and establish a dedicated funding source. Right.
Okay.
All right, let's go back up to 3.
Wait, but you deleted the other part there when you did
What's that?
Ashley,
deleted-
I've got it.
Okay,
I'll
good. Just making sure. Just making sure, because it would be funding and a funding source for both passive and active recreation maintenance.
Okay. So are we taking out the second objective because it's in other places?
Yes.
Okay. And we've got that somewhere else.
Mhm.
And we've got that somewhere else, and we just put that somewhere else. The last one, promote stewardship of existing recreation resources.
Yeah, that's under Dan's as well. That
Yeah, we
last
talked
goal.
about that too.
Okay. Is there any other objective you'd like to see in goal 3? And goal 3, just to remind you, is that one.
We haven't left off our objective to maintain recreational facilities. I really thought goal 6 was geared more toward open space, conservation land. No? Or was
Yeah,
it
that's
more
a good point.
Was it
I
general
thought
enough?
I thought we tried to combine them both, but we may not have, John. You're right. We
Because
haven't done a very good
we
job of it.
we weren't really leaving out. I thought that the goals kind of did speak to what we consider to be the more active recreational facilities compared to goal 6 got at the maybe the disparate attention to that versus open space.
I think we threw them both in there in goal 5.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, it's goal 5 now.
Yeah.
All right, good. Goal 5 is good. Sorry.
Do we want to move on to 2, or we want to stay on 3 and maybe come up with another objective?
So we gotta get past 2.
Let's go on to, we're going backwards, John.
Going backwards.
Improve, expand, and manage properties for active and passive. So would this not be, oh no, in goal 1, we talked about.
This is from the master
protecting
plan.
land.
Are there any other objectives from the master plan?
Oh gosh, I'd have to go back and look. Oof, oof, oof. I think we captured them in goal 1.
Yeah, they might be goal 1. There was one about increasing access to waterfront. I don't remember if that might have ended up
I
under
think
a
that's
different.
up here.
It's
What
up here,
happened to what happened to the whole discussion of expanding connections?
That's in 1, I think, but
We brought that into 3, now it's in 1.
Let's make sure we've got it. All right. I think we already covered 1, right?
In the most recent draft, it's an objective under goal 3.
yeah.
The whole thing about connections, walking.
Improve accessibility,
Goal
and then
3.
you're right, John. Yeah, goal 3.
3
I
is
thought
supposed
was
to be. Yep.
yeah. It was
So
supposed to
this
be.
is where we're supposed to do a connections.
Yeah, that's key. That's huge.
So let me
All
grab
of the-
some wording from a previous
you're-
version.
Yeah, you had expand connections between existing open spaces and community resources.
That would be an objective.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
under. And then the actions, pretty easy to follow from that. Create more sidewalks. I don't know how we say it, but, and that,
You always said it before. We didn't. We haven't gotten into it yet, so let's get into it now because it's an important one. Expand connections between existing open spaces and community resources. Action.
right, we already agreed on those words. Let's not bother. Then
Yep.
under actions,
I agree.
One that I had was incorporate complete streets concepts as streets are improved.
Mhm. That'd be good, and that takes care of walking and biking routes and sidewalks.
It does, yeah. It takes that would include bike lanes. That really includes a lot of ADA accessibility, curb cuts for access at crosswalks, that sort of thing, and sidewalks.
Okay. So I think the second one, then we could do the parking. Try to allow for parking.
pardon me, action 1, incorporate complete street concepts. Is it okay to say including more sidewalks?
You can say including all of those things that she just said, just to be clear.
It's pretty vague with the first part.
Complete streets is a pretty defined term in Massachusetts, John, that I think
Right,
folks
I
can
don't,
Google if they want the whole list. I don't know that we can put them all in here.
okay, Uncle.
But I think what John is saying is he wants the word sidewalks. I agree. It was identified as a priority. If someone's a naysayer and they want to open the plan and they're like, I just want to make sure sidewalks are in this plan and
Exactly.
they edit find, they're going to find the word sidewalk. In
Yeah.
Yeah.
So say including sidewalks, walking, or sidewalks and bike routes, because those I think are the 2 key pieces, or bike lanes, whatever it is,
Including sidewalks and
bike lane.
bike lanes.
Yeah.
Very good. Period. Thank you.
Right. So now we're talking about parking lots. Identify, maybe evaluate, seek parking areas, improve parking.
Seek to add more parking areas.
Sounds good. And I would say the third, I would like to see seek out opportunities for trail connections between recreation and open space facilities.
How about
Seek opportunities for trail connections between.
just for trail connections?
Yeah, trail
Or
or what?
Greenway connections.
There you go.
or-
Yep, because it could be a bike path.
Yeah.
Okay. Good enough to move on?
I think so. There's not a third one. Oops. Where did this get here? Let me take that.
I'm sorry. The formatting is kind of
It might have been
wonky.
me. I was copying and pasting a lot of stuff in here. So then we'll go back. I think we did one, but let's just review.
Go to goal 2, we didn't do, right? Or did we?
That, I think that was just goal. Is that not?
The number 2 is the accessibility one. So
Yes.
2.
All right.
Okay.
We must have more actions in mind there. Anybody? Ally?
Yeah, I'm taking a look. I'm just reading my notes.
I want to say something about creating. We actually had, it's going to be, Brian, it's going to be on the next Trails Committee agenda. One of the Trails Committee members thinks he has scoped out a wheelchair accessible path. And so he's going to bring that to the Trails Committee. And it'd be nice to see more of those. It was Forrest. So.
Yeah, I mean, the first action item is inventorying what we have. So I think the action item is to create accessible passive and active recreation areas for the community.
Just as a question, when we're talking about accessibility, we're talking about ADA accessibility, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
Is there a reason we don't say that?
I think it's synonymous. You know, when you say accessible, it's ADA. When you're talking parks, you know what I mean? At least in my head, I don't know, maybe not to the public.
Isn't it kind of like the new politically correct thing? We've gone over this before.
Yeah,
Oh, we
I
can
don't.
say ADA.
Yeah, you can.
You can say to ensure ADA compliance. Yeah, there you
Perfect.
go. By the way, does a dog park location have to satisfy accessibility as well?
Yes, it does. You have to be able
So-
to get through the gate with a wheelchair.
That's a pretty big deal for location wise. Yeah. Okay.
Not really, because you're gonna have a parking area and you're gonna be walking
Right.
dogs in through a fenced area. So developing that into ADA compliance isn't really
They
a
just,
big deal.
No, it was really in my head thinking about potential areas and fields and paths that make it a little different, you know.
That's
you
why
don't
Yellick was
necessarily
perfect.
have to have the whole thing accessible. You have to have area that's accessible.
Sorry
Just
to
like at the
digress, but
park.
one thing I forgot to ask while we were on it is did they ask about turning Kearney Park into a dog park? And is that,
Oh, we've
They
looked
did.
into
They-
that for years.
They've asked for a contact for the state and I'm trying to get them one so that they can just, they're a private group. Northbourne Leash is a private group. They
there's
can just
also
go to the state.
and I don't know if this is on your background list, but there's also the loft project of the trail access off of Davis Street
Mhm.
that was going to cut into, and again, I don't know whose land that is, but it comes up against the earth
It's
dam.
DCR's. It's another flood control facility.
So that rules it out.
No, they can, like I said, they can just go ahead and they're a private group. They can reach out to DCR and start those conversations. When we reached out, we were told no,
Mhm.
but maybe they'll be more persuasive.
Okay, but they're kind of wasting their time.
Yes.
No, maybe they know somebody, right? That's how Yellick got crushed, is by knowing somebody. Maybe they know somebody and they could get something moved.
Okay,
It's
Fair
all
enough.
about who you know.
It's all about
back to the action. Sorry about that.
All right. Any more action items for improving accessibility to parks?
I mean, those two are pretty,
It kind of sums it up. We have to
Yeah.
inventory and get into that, and then we have to create it. So
Well,
Is there
would it be
any-
redundant to say, because basically if you improve more than 50% of your site or you hit a certain monetary threshold, you have to comply with ADA standards.
correct.
But would it be possible as an action item to be like all upgrades, all facility improvements will consider ADA standards when possible?
sure.
You know,
I
it's a
wouldn't
higher
put it
goal.
that way because the state is going to require, you know, look at the pavilion. All we did was, not the pavilion, the gazebo at Ellsworth McAfee. All we did was upgrade the material that it's built with, and then we had to put on a ramp.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So there's strict
So it'd be
state
redundant. Yeah, you're right.
guidelines. Yeah, I think it's just
Okay.
if we have to do it, we do it, you know, and basically we're gonna inventory what we have and then fix what we need to fix.
Okay.
Second action is vague enough then. We're in the right, we're expressing the desire.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the second objective, promote public and private sponsored recreational opportunities.
I was really floundering a little bit with this one. I think I was just thinking there's a lot of private recreation in town as well, and I don't know how accessible any of that is. So I don't know if there's an opportunity for.
Yeah, I wouldn't
partners.
necessarily want to get involved with the ADA of anything private. You're looking at, you know, teamwork, somebody's building a soccer field in town, you know what I mean? That's not for the town, it's private. And I don't think
So-
that's our responsibility.
The next step for accessibility is like, so our first objective and action meets requirements. We're meeting requirements. We're inventorying, we're looking for opportunities. The next level is then creating experiences. You know, like right down the street from me, I just got an entire ADA playground. The entire playground can be used by a child on a wheelchair. The swings, the seesaws, it's this enormous seesaw with these huge couches. It's beautiful. And then we have our Mass Audubon in Worcester has a trail that's specifically for blind people. So blind people come from all over the country to be able to walk in the woods on this trail. So that's the next level of accessibility, is creating experiences for marginalized groups, for children with developmental disabilities, blind people, people stuck in wheelchairs.
Right.
The second
I don't know
action
if
is
you
broad
wanna
enough
go
for
there
that,
yet.
right?
A perfect example of that is I run the Challenger programs. We run Challenger baseball, Challenger basketball, Challenger soccer, and we have 60 to 100 kids with all different disabilities that come and join. But we don't have a field in town that is accessible to somebody who has a tracheotomy. And we have 2 children in town with that, and they can't play because we have dust and dirt. You know what I mean? So there's different areas in the United States that have built what they call, you know, ADA compliant fields. So there's things like that, like you were saying, Mia, that, you know, it's an inclusion process for everybody.
Well,
that
could
I
I
think-
suggest maybe a baby step would be to seek out representation on this committee or on other committees so that you're hearing firsthand from the folks in town what they're interested in. Maybe get some differently abled, I don't know what the PC term is, folks on the open space committee, on the parks.
Self-advocates. You'd
So
be an
seek-
advocate. We would seek an advocate.
Mm-hmm. What are you gonna say? Yeah.
Is that
ADA
something you're
groups.
interested in, or do you not want to include it in this plan? It doesn't have to be. If you have it in your plan, there is funding for these type of projects. And if it's in your plan, you get more points, just
Yeah.
like open space. It's a similar process.
No, I think that's a really good,
If you want to do an
Objective.
ADA playground, if you want to do a dust-free field,
right.
seek funding for that.
What is
I don't-
that, Allie? Is it like turf?
Turf, yes.
Okay.
Yep. So there's people that have the turf fields for soccer and they actually paint a baseball field onto it. And then everybody with wheelchairs, anybody can use it. And it's pretty awesome, actually.
So identify the needs is fine, and the second action, explore funding opportunities,
Yeah.
maybe?
They're actually one of the pitchers for the Red Sox donated $300,000 to a place in, I believe it was Indiana, to build one of those specific Challenger fields. And it was incredible.
Great.
To build,
Future
Okay.
facilities.
Funding opportunities, period.
Yeah.
okay.
I forget what it's called, but there's this playground on Pope's Island, Fairhaven. I think it's Fairhaven, not New Bedford, Fairhaven. It's the most amazing playground, but it's all, you know, it's just got, it's amazing.
Wait till you guys see our Assabet plan.
Oh, I can't wait.
We're building the coolest thing ever. I'm just so
Woohoo.
excited.
That's awesome.
It's going to be our first like completely compliant ADA playground facility. It's going to be incredible.
That's great. When are you releasing the plan?
Well, we're still currently trying to figure that out right now, but we've been putting together like pieces and things that we want to do and working with the engineer. So we're going to be coming up with it, you know, the final pretty quickly.
Great.
Guys, it's 9:30. Are we at a pretty good stopping
We already
point for
did roll
tonight?
one.
Yeah. We
Let's
went
take a
through,
look
did we
at-
go through one? Let's
I
see.
I think that was the first one we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much the same as the last one, but it's a standard that has to be in every plan, right? It's about
Right.
identifying open space parcels.
Yeah.
So is this enough meat, Sarah, for you to clean it up? And then could I propose you try to squeeze in a meeting with us one more time, which I guess would be end of October? Can that
Yes,
plan
I
work
think
time-wise?
my only concern is I think we really need to get a draft out for public comment, and I'm not sure that we want to wait until the end of October to do that. So
Well, what would be the
Sorry,
reason
earlier
for us
meeting.
not doing it now?
Yeah. Do we have any more we need to really look at? Didn't we just do it?
We can still comment.
I would say just put it out there and see what
Oh.
the public has to say.
Yes, Sarah,
Sarah,
we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Sarah, for a second.
Oh, we lost you for a second.
Didn't hear what she said.
I mean, do you guys on the committee have any issues with her putting that out to the public now?
No?
No.
I thought that she wanted to, clean it up. Maybe that's
Right.
going to happen regardless.
yeah, sorry, my internet connection is really bad tonight, so I've kind of been cutting in and out, but I will clean up this action plan and finalize it and get the draft ready to go and get that over to Mia. And then
Great.
I think we can talk again at your meeting.
Well, if we're satisfied that we've covered it and you're going to go through typos and so on, then can't we agree to post it?
Let's do it.
Do it.
Yeah, while you were gone, Sarah, we talked about we're
Oh,
okay with
she's-
you releasing this to the public.
Yep. We did hear you that last time, Sarah. Don't worry.
Okay.
We
Great.
heard you say that your internet was bad. We heard that whole part.
I guess that means we're ready to end.
So did she hear us? We agree this
Yes.
could be published.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we covered it. We got it.
Okay, great. Then let's do that. And I guess we might then at the next meeting be able to clean up any actions that require us voting or anything like that. But what do you think?
Yeah, I did. I think there were some questions about the ADA assessment. So I just wanted to, if there were any questions, kind of go through that. I know it's a really lengthy checklist. Basically, there will be a lot of things that do not apply for most of the facilities. If they don't apply, you can truly just X through that section or write NA all the way down. Like swimming pools are not going to really be anywhere. So if anyone has any questions about that ADA checklist, let me know or fire them off now.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at it and I was just like, I felt like it was redundant on a number of pages, and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be filling out the entire thing. And
there will
is
be
there-
a lot of it that you don't fill out, and that's completely fine. But that's the checklist that the state puts out there that we
Okay.
put in the appendices. So
okay, and there's no like guidance document anywhere on that.
I'll do. I have never seen one.
Okay,
but I'll
then don't worry about it. No, then don't worry about it. You would have seen it, I'm sure. Yeah, okay. Yes, I volunteered and I still haven't done it. So
No one else has volunteered, Ashley, so you're ahead of the game. Would anyone else? I think actually, Leslie, I think Leslie volunteered for Assabet as well, but I said Ashley got it.
Then
Is that right?
Leslie can do Assabet and I'll do
No, no, no,
Ellsworth,
no, 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 no.
McAfee.
Guys, we're tearing down.
No, I never said
Assabet.
that. I asked if, no, Mia, seriously, I asked if it had to be done because
nice.
we already have a project underway.
Yeah, we're tearing
Oh.
it down.
So what's the point of assessing it?
Yeah, so Sarah, do we assess Assabet as it is now or how it's going to be?
We don't have a formal plan yet.
I think we have to do
Yeah,
it as it is now.
I suppose we assess it as it is now, but maybe we
Okay.
make note
So
that a new plan
When
is
it
under.
comes time to volunteer, the first people who volunteer are the people who are not present. So which one do you think Paul would like to, no, I'm serious, which one will Paul like to evaluate?
Well, I would like to do Ellsworth McAfee now instead of Assabet since I'm there every week now.
Okay.
I used to be at Assabet all the time, but haven't gotten to go in a long time. So
Okay,
I can do Assabet.
okay. You probably off the top of your head.
Yeah, exactly. I've
Which-
already
Kelly,
gone through
which
this.
one? Which one does Mark want? Memorial?
I can do Memorial.
Oh, yeah,
can
Mark,
you-
Mark actually is on the baseball board, so.
Oh, give it to him.
Okay.
there you go.
Perfect.
Mia, I'll do Carney. Like I said, I go there on occasion, so I can do it.
Okay. What am I-
That's good.
I actually gotta run though too, so I'm gonna.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm
Step
sorry, I'm not
off.
gonna be able to volunteer for one. I'm
We have to
actually
vote on
taking-
minutes, so please don't go away. We just need to take a quick vote. It'll be 160 seconds.
You're not up
Volunteer
yet.
So let's table this volunteer list. We got most of it. Since we all read the minutes, I'd like to have a motion to approve the July 27 minutes.
Move to approve the July 27 minutes.
That was Brian.
I'll second.
A second from Dan. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Okay, then I'm going to take a roll call for your vote. Ashley, what's your vote on the minutes?
Aye.
Leslie?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
John? Aye. The minutes are approved. Thank you. Now we can
To
go to bed.
adjourn?
Yes, I think we can
I had
adjourn.
one
Sarah?
Now,
One quick question. The selectmen were discussing today appointments to Master Plan Implementation Committee, and I know we're supposed to have one person from open space. And I would be happy to volunteer since I went through the master plan, but if anybody else was interested, then.
You got the
speak up.
job.
it's all yours, Ashley.
All right.
Can we take a
Thank
vote
you
on that
for
just
your
in case they
service.
require a vote?
Okay, can I have a motion for the Ashley being the representative, and she can't make the motion probably.
So moved.
And is there a second for the motion?
Second,
So that was Leslie and Anthony.
Anthony.
Anthony, thank you.
Okay, let's see. It's tricky, but I guess Ashley's in favor, yes? Anthony,
Aye.
Mark, I'm sorry. Brian,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
John, aye. 5-0 vote to make
Leslie vote?
Ashley, Leslie voted, no. Leslie,
Aye.
she said aye, sorry. All in on Ashley being our representative to the implementation of the master plan. Got a
Yay.
lot of planning going on,
This will be the easier step.
hopefully.
Okay,
So
one
yeah,
more
I'm not
thing, does
trying to
anyone
rush
want
to
the
the end,
senior
but
center?
I know we all have to get off.
Will anyone
Time yet?
volunteer for the senior center?
I
No.
will,
Nobody volunteered.
I will.
Thanks, Ally. All right.
I spent a lot of time up there for the,
Pickleball? No.
no, actually the disc golf.
Ally,
Oh,
what's
right.
across from Memorial? There's another field across the street.
Casey Field.
What's it called?
It's Casey Field, but it falls under Memorial Park. The whole thing is called Memorial Park.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, do we have enough to conclude for the night?
Yep.
Okay, very good. I recommend we close the meeting and thank you all for making time.
Thank you.
Night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
And, oh, hold on. So if Sarah is able to move forward, we can afford to wait a month to meet. Is that fair?
Mhm.
So Sarah is going to post it on the website. We're going to release it to the public.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sounds
Mia,
good.
do you want a PDF, a fully assembled PDF? Is that what you'd like with all the appendices, or do you want it broken out by section?
Oh, maybe by section so people can download what they like.
Okay, you got it.
And then we'll plan to meet again the fourth Monday, October 26th, okay?
October 26th.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks again, everybody, for staying up late.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
See ya.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi.
Hi, Ally. Oh my gosh. Okay. Clicking on more.